right, so for the first one, some people had trouble with the first one because maybe some of you forgot a lot about like the exponent rules. So this one is just a monomial times another monomial. The brackets means multiplication. So here, you're just multiplying the coefficients together. So you get positive 50. When you multiply, you add the exponents. So this is x to the 3 and y to the 8. Okay. You cannot combine the exponents together because x and y have different base. So it's just 50 x cubed y 8, and that's your answer. Can't do anymore. Okay. I'll just take up a few more of these. This right here, the exponent. So exponent to an exponent, you multiply, remember. So this means negative 2 times negative 2 times negative 2, which gives you negative 8, not negative 6. You're not multiplying the coefficient, you're cubing the coefficient. So then x to the 6, y to the 3. Okay, this one was a little tricky. When you reduce this, 15 goes into both, so you get negative 2/3. And then the x and the y and the z, you can combine them. So when you divide, you subtract. So x to the 4, y to the negative 2, and then the z's cancel out. But notice I have a negative exponent. On the exam, it could say simplified to positive exponents only. So if it's a negative exponent, where does that y go? Yep.
Negative 2 over 3, y negative 2.
But where does because of beside the 3 in the denominator. Good. Okay, because of the negative exponent, that means the y square is actually in the denominator. So let me just write down this extra step right here. So this becomes this. So when you multiply, you know you multiply the numerators to numerators, denominators to denominators. So this, if I were to write it nice and neat, it's going to be negative 2x4 over 3y squared. Right? So keep in mind, if the question says no negative exponents, then that means this. Okay? So number 2 is just FOIL. For all of these ones are just FOIL, so it should be straightforward. These ones factoring. So I'll just write one really quickly. So this is 9x squared minus 12xy plus 4y squared. So after you do FOIL and collect the like terms in the middle, you should get this. So all of this is just FOIL. Okay, first outside, inside last. Okay, factor. These ones with the a equals 1 coefficient, you can just do the triangle and square method. So, triangle times square equals negative 27, and triangle plus square to equal 6, the middle term. So the two numbers that work, 9 and negative 3. So 9 and negative 3 gives you negative 27. 9 and minus 3 gives you positive 6. So those are my two factors. So that means my answer, when I factor it, x plus 9, x minus 3. Done. All right. Again, the question just says factor, so I'm done. Just this. If it says solve, then my two answer would be x equals negative 9, x equals 3. All right. This one right here, I recognize that, okay, there's only two terms, and the 9 and the 4 are perfect square numbers. So I recognize that it's a perfect square, difference of square. So to get the 9, it's 3 and 3. The 4x squared is 2x and 2x. Since it's a difference of square, that means one is plus, one is minus. All right. So this one, the order was written in a different order, you're used to seeing 4x squared minus 9. But since they have the coefficient first, order does matter when you write this. Right. And this one right here, I also see two terms only, and it's a minus. Does it make this a difference of square? No, because 5 is not a perfect square number. So just because there's two terms with a negative doesn't a minus sign in between doesn't makes it different of square automatically. So here with just two terms is also like a hint. You probably want to do common factor. You should always check for common factor first, but looking at this, since it's two terms and not a difference of square, it's like a hint to me that probably a difference of square then. So I'm going to factor out the 5xy in both. Factoring out the 5xy means dividing it out. So make sure you have that 5xy. Don't just write it underneath the question. Have it out and then divide it. So when you divide, you get 5x minus 1. There is still this minus 1 right here, because otherwise it doesn't just cancel out and become nothing. It's still there. So without that minus 1, you'll lose that binomial. Okay. This next one, because it's a 3x squared, you cannot do the triangle square method. So 3x squared, you will break it down as 3x and x. The 10, you can break it down as 5 and 2. So I'm going to do 5 and 2, so that when you cross multiply 15x plus 2x, you get the 17x that we want. So that means this is my first bracket. This is my second bracket. So 3x plus 2, x plus 5. Okay. This next one, notice the similarity, but not quite. Okay, so you can't just do grouping factoring, but what you could do is rewrite this by taking out a negative out of this bracket. So this means when you divide a negative out, you get negative 4 instead of plus 4. Then you can change this second bracket to minus 2 plus m. Now these two are the same. M minus 2 is the same as negative 2 plus m. All right, the sign in front of each term is the same. Since now it's the same, then that means you can do group factoring, which is factoring out the m minus 2 from both terms. So your answer, m minus 2 bracket x minus 4. Yeah. Possible. It's possible. Okay, so that's why I'm going every one of these, because each one of these is a different type of factoring. Okay, so don't get tricked by this one. Recognize that they are different but similar, very similar, so you can make it the same. Okay, F. Okay, what do you do for F? Yeah. Okay, but notice the plus sign in between. So is it a difference of square? No. So what could you do? Nothing. You can't do anything. This is unfactorable. Not factorable. So for those of you who thought about this question like for a good 10 minutes, sorry. So this is not factorable. Okay. This one right here, I don't think you'll see a question like this on the exam. I don't recall seeing something like this. But if you were to factor this, you would factor this the same way. So instead of instead of a and a, it will be a squared times a squared. So you can still do the triangle and square method of this because the coefficient in the front is just 1. So triangle times square to equal 33. Triangle plus square to equal negative 14. So 11 and 3. Yeah, so negative 11, negative 3, negative 11, negative 3. So those two work. But because it's a to the power of 4, instead of writing a and a, it's going to be a square, like this, to get that a to the power of 4. And then your two numbers would be minus 11, minus 3. Okay. If it's a cube, you cannot do that. Because if it's a cube, you can't split it up evenly. So only if it's a square, a to the 4, a to the 9, not 6, a to the 9, a to the 16, perfect square numbers where you can split it up perfectly. Okay. Don't forget, if this was a squared minus 9, for example, then that means you could do one extra step and factor out the second bracket as well. So if this was a squared minus 9, then you could have did one more step and break this bracket down into a plus 3, a minus 3. Okay, so make sure you factor all the way. Okay, for this one, you could rewrite this negative x squared plus x plus 20. Okay, notice I didn't change any of the sign. I just rewrote it in a different order. You cannot just change the sign in everything. Okay, so once you have this, I cannot do triangle and square because my a is not just 1, it's negative 1. Since it's negative 1, I have to do like this. So break it up, negative x, x, and then 5 and 4. So 5 and 4. So when I cross multiply, I get, nope, I need the other way. 4 and 5. 5 and 4. Yeah, so when I cross multiply, I get that negative 4x plus 5x to give me the positive x. So here, that means my two brackets, negative x plus 5, and this bracket, x plus 4. Okay, so again, because of the negative in the front, I cannot just do triangle and square. I have to do this method, the cross multiply method, and then those are my two brackets. Okay, and then lastly, this one again is a grouping question. Might as well do the last one. So I can factor out a plus b, factor out a plus b. So a plus b bracket 5x minus 1. Okay. How many of you got all these factoring questions correct? All of these. Okay, good. So I did every single one of these because it covered everything that you could possibly see on the exam. So if you could do all of these, then you should be very good with this chapter on the exam. Okay. If there are some that you didn't do so well on, or you need more practice on, for example, like grouping, I still don't understand that. This week, any day during class, come up, ask me. I can give you a few more questions, a few more practice.
What was the rule you said to use the quadratic formula to find a function is
Factorable? Okay, so one, it has to be a quadratic for you to use the quadratic formula. And two, if you use the quadratic formula, you get an integer, then that means it is going to be factorable. If it's a decimal, actually, wait. Actually, would have got a nice number. You would have got that x is 5 and the other x equals -4. So you would get a nice number when you do the quadratic. But then I'm just thinking about this one, for example. This one is factorable as well, but the x value that you'll get with the quadratic formula is -2/3. So it's actually not an integer, but it's still factorable. What do you guys think? Any trick to see if it's factorable or not without like wasting 10 minutes of our life?
I mean, just the descriptive, right?
Sorry?
Just using the descriptive.
Oh yeah. Well, but then you could have 2 decimal. Like for example, all of these are
Like, what do you mean
Yeah.
by factorable?
like nice brackets like these. Discriminant would only check if how the number of.
Yeah.
Elizabeth?
The question is it okay? I still have like I factored out minus, but I didn't put a bracket in.
Oh, okay, yeah. If you have negative bracket x minus 5, x plus 4, then that's fine as well. Yeah. So yeah, that's another way that you could do it. If you can't change the sign of these, but you can factor out a -1. So if you factor out a -1, then it would also work. So for this one, you could have this as your answer, or you could have this as your answer.
If you can do that with -1, can you do that with all like the coefficients?
But sometimes you don't want to do that. Like so, for example, if you factor out that 3 in this one, then you'll end up with a 17/3 and a 10/3, and that's even uglier, right? Would the I guess if the I guess the quadratic formula could help you see if it's factorable, but yeah, it does. But it's possible that like if you get
I don't know, skill issues.
I want to say if you get a rational number, maybe that would also mean that it's factorable.
Well, irrational numbers.
Yeah.
So just get this.
Yeah. So in this, instead of saying integers, it would be rational numbers, because just like this one, when you factor it out, you get the -2/3, which is still a rational.
And guess what? It's faster reduce. Right? That's rational.
Yeah. Did I teach you guys that, or my grade 9s that? Rational numbers. Oh, okay. So yeah, one of the unit for my grade 9s was rational, irrational, the numbers, the real number system, and all that. So rational numbers is 2 numbers,
Can be expressed in fraction.
a fraction written as 2 integers.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So good job. Oh, this page, I don't even want to take up this page. It's so long. But what so on the final exam, because it's only 90 minutes, you're not gonna get a whole page of questions like these, okay? Because these take just way too long. What I would say is, if you are gonna see something like this on the exam, you'll just see 1 maximum. All right, because these ones takes way too long. It's gonna waste a lot of time. All right. If I test you guys on this, it's good enough to show me your understanding of factoring. So no need to do something so long and if you make a small little mistake, it takes me forever to mark as well, because I have to find your little mistake in every line. Okay. So like with these questions, what you would do is just do the FOIL, do the FOIL, and then combine all the like terms together. All right, that's what you would be doing it in these. Okay, so for example, this one can Kelly, could you just tell me your answer for this? So that if you got this one, that means you should have probably gotten those. So number page 2, 1F.
Negative 86
Negative 86.
x squared
Yeah.
plus 10x.
Okay. How many of you got that? Okay, good. So when 3 people agree with you, I think that is right. Did Aryan, did you get no, you got something else? Okay. You don't know what you wrote. But Max, did you get something else?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So Max got something else. Max, what did you get?
But it's like, it's probably wrong because only the first term is different.
Yeah, same. I got negative 116x.
Negative 116x squared plus 10x plus 15. All right, let's see. So negative 80 right here already. So, no, negative 100. Negative 100x. Negative.
It's just negative 100, yeah.
Negative 101. Negative 110. Negative 110, and then another 8. Negative 118. I got.
Okay, yeah, I got that.
So I got negative 118. Is 118? Oh, okay, yay!
What is the line go out? Reflected 5.
Alright. The x squared part was easy to do, so I was able to do that in my head, just the x squared part. But the I know. I feel like I'm doing a commercial for this. Alright, but then the x part would have been much harder to do in your head. So yeah. Alright, but the x terms, because of the FOIL, you have 2 terms here, 2 terms there. So, but there. Alright. So if you got that, good for you. Your mind was very clear when you did this. It probably took up like the whole. Yeah. Okay. Don't do that. Okay. And then these ones. What about? Okay. So for F, what was the very first thing you should have done? Yeah. Yeah, common factor. Factor out 2xy. You should always do common factor first. So 2xy. And then this, you'll get 6x squared minus 7xy. And then plus 2y squared. Alright. Looking at this, the x squared, y squared, and this trinomial here makes me think that, oh, maybe this is factorable as well. So 3, 2, 3, 6. Yeah, it is factorable. So 6x squared, I can break this down to 3x and 2x. 2y squared, I can break this down as 2y and y. Because it's negative in the middle, so I'm going to make both of these minus. So when I cross multiply, I get negative 6xy. Oh no, that doesn't work. Negative 2. Yeah. It's negative 2y and then negative 1y. So when you do a lot of math, you recognize when it's factorable, when it's not factorable. So like the fact that I saw the x squared and the y squared in the middle term with the xy kind of tells me that, oh, maybe I should check to see if this trinomial is factorable. Yeah, so now when I do that, I get negative 3xy minus 4xy. So I do get that negative 7xy. So that's my factor, and this is my factor. So my final answer in this one, 2xy bracket 3x minus 2y bracket 2x minus y. Okay, how many of you got that? Okay, good. All right, how many of you stopped here? All right, thank you for your honesty. Okay, so make sure.
What's the third page?
Second page.
Oh.
Yeah, so make sure you after you factor, take another 30 seconds, look at it to see if you have factored fully. Okay. I guess another hint, is on the exam. If you see the word factor fully, then maybe that's like your hint that there is more than just one factoring. Because like you can see for these ones right here, when it's like, oh, never mind. I also did write factor fully. I was going to say, like, for those ones, the question will probably just say factor. And then these ones where it's more complicated, it will say factor fully. So maybe. Okay. Okay. So that was all the factoring and expanding. That was, I think, chapter 4 of the textbook of our in our units. Sure. Okay. This one, chapter 1, system of equations. Solve this by substitution. Solve this by elimination. What answer did you guys get for number 1? What was your answer? X equals. Yep.
X equals 1 and y equals 4.
Okay. Do we agree with Aryan? Yes. Ryan says yes. So okay. What about B? Ryan, what about you? And Aryan, do you agree with Ryan? Yes, good job. Okay. Sorry. Okay, so just to show you guys the answer one more second in case you missed it. Okay, and this one right here, this one a little tricky, but what you had to do was expand it out first and then collect the like terms to get the equations and then do. So for the first equation, if you expand it out, you'll get 2m plus 2 minus n plus 4 equals 15. So then you could rearrange it. So you can simplify it to 2m minus n. This would be 6. So when you move it over, equals 9. All right, so this is your first equation after simplifying everything. Okay. Second equation, same thing. 3m minus 3 plus 4n plus 8 equals 2. So when you simplify all the like terms, you get 3m plus 4n. Add these two together, you get 5. Move it over to the other side, you get negative 3. So that's your second equation. All right. Now you can do either substitution or elimination. So it was just one extra step where you had to expand it out and then clean it up. And then now you see the two equations. Okay. So then with just these, now with these two equations like this, it's no different than just a question like this, right? You just have to simplify it. D. Oh, sorry. Let me. So what did you guys get for M and what did you get for N? Pratik, what about your invisible paper on your table?
So my paper is now less invisible. And I got n is equal to n is equal to -3, and m is equal to 3.
Okay.
Arnie, you can correct my answer. I did think so.
Okay. It's just like when you tell him and then he repeats it, and then like this time he can't read your writing. So no, so I was you're too funny, Pratik. All right. So for D, same thing. You had to fix it up a bit first before you can do your two equations. So here, I hate fractions. So I'm gonna multiply everything by the LCD. So in this case, I'm gonna multiply this by 6, multiply this by 6, multiply this by 6. So multiply through everything by 6. So when I do that, my new equation here is going to be 6 times x divided by 3, so 2x. 6 times y divided by 2, 3y. And then 6 times 3, 18. Right? Second equation, same thing. Multiply everything by 12. So times everything by 12. So 12 times 2 is 24. 24 divided by 3, you get 8. So 8x. 12 times -3y is -36y. Divided by 4, you get -9y. And then 12 times -1, -12. Okay? So therefore, that's your, so now it looks a lot neater. And again, this looks just the same as any of these ones right here now. Okay. Let's see. Emma, what did you get for x and y? Okay. Oh. Do you agree with the 4? Yeah. All right.
I can't read my
You can read. Okay, so I don't blame you anymore, Pratik. If he can't read his own, that's why you couldn't read it. Did you get this one? 3 and 4. Ryan, do you agree? Yeah. Okay. I trust you guys. I didn't solve it, so let's see. 3 times 8, 24. 24 minus 36, you do get -12. Yeah, so that sounds good. Remember any of these answers, you can sub it into the original equations to see if it makes sense. If it makes sense for 1, then if it makes sense for 1 only, it's wrong. It has to make sense for both. Okay. So you could solve all of these and then check your answer and know that you got 5 out of 5 on this question before I even mark it. Okay? But make sure, because your exam is long, that you do all the questions first, and then at the end, when there's time, then go back to check the questions. Okay? Because if you check every single questions as you go along, you're not gonna be able to reach the last 2 pages. Right? 90-minute exam. Out of 70, I think there's about around 20-ish multiple choice questions. Some short answers, some full solutions. I think total. How many pages? I'll check after I take this off the projector.
So the exam is like, it's like we're gonna